And today we are here again with Voxton, speaking on the topic of race selection. So I'm just going to step back a little bit and just kind of let you have the reign and tell me which tabs to click.
No, you good. You good. So you've made it to Muzzle Run. You've got your hands on your first dog or dogs, and now you are left with some NFTs and a platform and a whole bunch of questions. That's kind of where just about everybody finds themselves in the beginning of muzzles. They might slap their dogs in races they shouldn't. They might try to jump the gun too early. So racing selection or kind of knowing how you plan on racing as a kennel owner and then leaning into that style of racing is how you're going to kind of chain your way up the racing circuit. There's everything from easy to jump into all the way up to very difficult to learn, and we're going to hopefully cover the strategies that are going to help you succeed at every tier of play throughout the course of this. When you first start out, what you're going to want to do, and what I would suggest, is to start out with your frees. You're going to find all of your free racing, for the most part, all of your free racing. Every once in a while, you'll have some frees pop up here and there. But you go to the race tab, and you want to make sure that whether you're under whippets or greyhounds, you're going to select free. Free and paid are the two options on this tab. And the free races are going to be where you're going to start your hound discovery. I would recommend getting, a good healthy amount of free races in there. Watch how the dogs race. They all have a different visual representation of how they race as well. You'll learn kind of where your dogs trigger their, this is where he usually speeds up. This is where he catches the stumble. You'll learn those dogs, but just watch some races, enter a bunch of frees, get the basics to learn how to learn dogs. And from there, once you're ready to start racing for money, you're at the point where, okay, I've learned the basics of the game. I've watched enough videos. I've done enough racing. Now, how do I make some money? This is going to be where you make your decision on how much you want to invest to make returns at this point when it comes to race funds. You've made your investments when it came to acquiring your hounds or your breeders or building up your stable. Now it's how much to put in to get out. There's cheap options of paid racing, and that is, all the way down to really no cost other than experience, but you only get to enter those once a month, and they do take a lot of planning in order to get ready for those. They do require boosting. We'll cover those later in the video. But a really good first place to start would just be in paid racing. Once you've learned, hey, I only have these 5 dogs, right? And through watching videos, I know that these 3 dogs are really good ones. Now, what do I do with them? You may not have, send it style runners that go across the spectrum. You may have dogs that only have 1 or 2 good things that they're good at. They may only be good at like snowy hard track or sunny wet track. And if they're only good at sunny wet track, something you can do is when you're ready to start trying to make money with that hound is start with paid racing. It's on the same tab as the race tab. You've got free and paid, but the benefit of paid is if you take the time to learn your hounds, if you take the time to really dive in and learn where your hounds like to run, the distances, the surface, the condition, you get their rabbits dialed in, you're getting on average race times just a few seconds off of those world fastest or faster than the world average. And you've said, okay, I have a really high statted hound that fits these exact preferences. Now under the paid tab, you go and search for the grade the dog is in. So if it's a group 3 dog that happens to be running that well, up at top you've got filters here, and you just select the filter for the group you want to race in. And if you happen to be looking for group 3, you hit group 3, and you could put in your dog's half preference or full exact preference. You can also save those in your race filters when you go to register for a race. As you set your dog's preference in the preferences tab, You select their distance and their preference, or the distance and surface, or surface and weather, sorry. You're already hunting for the distance when looking for the race, but you slap it in there and you have match track by default, match weather by default, and now it'll show you exactly the hounds you own that attracts exact preferences. So if you have a rainy, muddy sprinter that's in group 3, then you know that at 250 meters, my dog has only gotten, a second place once, and every other time, 1. You can now go into this group 3 paid 150 froth race that's a rainy, muddy 250 and know exactly that, hey, my dog has a good chance at winning the 500 froth first place prize. These are low froth entry, low froth return prize pools, because these ones are just based on prizes directly reflective of the amount contributed to the entry fees. So whatever the entry fees are, 150 times 8, that's your prize pool. There's no extra juice on any of these. This is just head-to-head gambling between 8 hounds. You can have up to 2 in the race, so you could have a quarter of the entries if you so chose, but it's a 1 in 8 shot, and it's a head-to-head gamble, 1v7 head-to-head. Everybody puts money in the kitty. Somebody wins based on where their placement, and first, second, and third is usually the only ones that end up winning any in those. So that is kind of like a good get your feet wet entry point into paid racing, where you can start learning that. I would implore you to know your dogs and don't expect success on the first go round. Even if you have a dog that normally wins every time you put them in a certain race condition, when you get into paids, be mindful, you have people who will only race paids with certain hounds. They have a hound for that specific race type, and the only time that hound touches track is when they register them for that race. So don't get discouraged if you lose. Competition level does go up when you start to get into higher grade competition and paid competition. So just keep that in mind. Strategies for this are, do not veer off of your dog's exact preferences. If you're going to be investing your money into paid racing, don't do like what you do in freeze when you're doing testing. Go 100% on preference when you're doing paid, because I'm telling you right now, for every condition and distance out there, there is at least one kennel that has a dog that has that preference and has the right rabbit that's in the system right now. For every single condition you can come up with, there is a dog configured properly for that condition. So if you're not sure about your dog, or if you're sure that you're running half preference and you know that there's dogs out there with full, then you're really being sloppy with your investments. So my suggestion would be to stick on full preference for paids, and don't waste your investment on chancing going against somebody with full pref, because the variance is high, but the closer to preference it is, the better shot that dog has of taking your money.
A side note on that too, if you're new, you shouldn't even be on group 3 to begin with. I mean, unless you're already training them, but most players don't know how to train in the first place. So you should be, if you're going to be doing paid, I would suggest doing group 4. I don't know what you would say on that.
Well, it just depends kind of, on what folks pull. If people come into the community and they watch some of our videos and they go through and they rip, some monster rares and they don't get any solid G4 hounds, I wouldn't recommend that they lean into like racing an Yvette because they happen to get an Yvette that can race G4, but they managed to pull a Leonard or Rose or a Trinity or something nice on the rare side. I wouldn't tell them to just sit on those hounds and race only your Yvette to learn G4. That's where you would want to go and learn, okay, how to train a Trinity. Get your Trinity trained and tell them your best bet for racing success is to lean into your best hounds. So this is where, your race preference is really going to determine on what hounds you have available to race in that moment. If you like a certain grade more, some people just like Group 4 running. And if that's the case, pull for Group 4. If you don't get them and you get some Monster Rare Plus, sell them, trade them. There's tons of people out there with Group 4s that they'd rather have higher end stuff. So knowing kind of how you like to race before you even start the hunt is a good thing too, because if you really prefer Group 4, there's a home for Group 4 running.
Yep. And then also, don't just throw, if you know it's a Group 4 dog, don't just throw it into a race, even if it's all preference, because it might not be a good dog. So I would say ask Voxton, tag him in the chat, and make sure.
Yeah, tag me or DM me if you want to. I'm cool with that.
Is it worth
but
racing?
For sure, make sure your dogs are worth racing. And there is a line where, a lot of people will tell you that I would say that every dog has a place. There is a line, where there is a cut line for even me where I would consider a dog trash. But knowing where your dog should race is important. And kind of knowing when to shift lanes is also important. If your dog's just not showing up in a certain facet, doesn't mean it's going to be a worthless dog. You just may be racing it in the wrong area. Maybe your dog isn't quite fast enough to be a paid racing runner, because that's where the fastest of the fast show up, because people know, hey, this is my fastest Sunny Muddy, and this dog is 0.001 second off of the world fastest at all three distances in this funnel. They've got it what's damn near a sure bet until the new best gets born. You know what I mean? So they can drop that thing in every time and at least get first, second, or third. They're going to get what they put in back every time. So they could just do that indefinitely until somebody else takes over. So you got to kind of know when to quit on those. If you don't have one that can quite hang up to that, but maybe it's good at rainy and sunny and cloudy muddy. Now you have a dog to lean into somewhere else that maybe, even though that other dog is faster than you at that one of those three conditions, your dog would spank it on the other two. Now you have a dog worth leaning into Mud Track Masters, and that would be a race that you would hunt for under the tournaments tab. And your weekly tournaments, you would have a daily come up, and they do them for all kinds of different weather conditions and surface conditions, but they have a Mud Track Master, which is an open grade only mud. So all surfaces are mud, but it goes all across multiple different weather conditions to match with that mud. So then they're saying, okay, now which muddy running dog has the best consistency, form combination plus inherent genes to be able to run off preference so that they're not affected by all these various rain and weather conditions, snow and hail. And then now you have a hound that maybe wasn't quite as fast, like we said, in the paid racing circuit, but we know he's muddy. And now he's got several weathers that he runs above average on. He just doesn't run super strong on one in particular. Take him out of the paid racing circuit, put him in the Mud Track Masters when those pop up on your tournaments tab. And you would keep him for muddy only sit and goes that might pop up, or those Mud Track Master dailies that pop up. Learning the different race styles. Yeah, we could shift over there now. Like paid racing, really, I mean, there's not a whole lot of strategies other than to know your hound and know your competition. You have the luxury in paid racing of they don't have it left anonymous. So you could literally go and see exactly the hounds that you're going to race against right now. And see, okay, that dog is going to kick my butt. It never loses at this distance, and it's got a time that's 2 seconds faster than the best I've ever done on average. Like, you could literally go scope your competition for every race, so you can make a smart decision. These races should take a long time to fill. But just be smart about your paid racing, and know when to pivot if your dog doesn't quite have the juice to hammer in paids. know when to shift over to tournament style running. And that would be, like sit and goes. There's not really a sit and go dog. Sit and goes are, just varied tournaments. You could watch the sit and go tab. A lot of people will just do sit and go running. There used to be tons more. I'm sure that day will come again where there's a lot more up there, but they take a while to fill. These are tournaments that will be a set of conditions. So these are just a whole slew of different conditionals. Some will be different grades. Some will have, two different weathers. Some will have two different surfaces. Some will have, one funnel distance. There'll be like a sprints only sit and go. And they'll just cover all kinds of varied conditions across those things. So sit and go racing, just pay attention to what's available. They have both greyhounds and whippets. You can filter for them. You could filter them for how much they cost to enter. If there are system generated free to enter paid tournaments that get created, this is the tab you're going to want to go look into. So if they run the free to entries and they say, hey, there's going to be a free flash sit and go or a free flash tournament, this is the sit and go tab is where those will pop up. And if you click on the filled tab, that'll show you like all the past ones as well. And you could scroll down and see like anytime there's been free ones, like it'll say free froth entry. And those are the ones that a lot of new players wouldn't really even know where to go even look. I think there was one page back there. No, that's 3,000 froth. They've been busy. The last free froth would have been called Sports Pub something, I believe. The last free froth.
Oh no! Apparently, I think there was a streamer. I forgot who it was. He was trying to set up a free one, and I guess it's been removed. The free entries. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I know that the free entries have been removed, but there's a free froth right there. So those are the ones that like when Muzz is creating one, like if they do like, oh, we're doing a free sit and go, that would be where those show up. Is under that tab.
And of course, Zombie's up there.
Oh yeah, Zombie is. Yep.
Jesus.
That is a monster BOTW. I think got the number one and then got dead last.
No,
or maybe didn't finish dead last.
We got I think fifth. So the streamer is made by streamers only, right? Partner streamers, right? And systems. So this tab right here for streamers, those are specially made by streamers, partner streamers, right? And then
correct.
And then the system here
would be made by the system generated. Those are like the auto generated, auto fillable.
Okay. And does the max entrance have to be filled, or it just starts wherever it's at? Once the 6 hours are done.
Used to, I don't think anymore. I think now they do close and just run with what they have. But they used to require to be filled, or we had to reach out and ask one of the mods to push it, basically.
Okay. And then open, that means anything that has to be trained, right? Or preferred trained.
It doesn't have to be. I mean, you can, like, these things could be so specifically limited that you could flag training required. You could have one where you have specifically the requirement of 3 training sessions, no more, no less.
Oh.
So you could have very unique tournaments set up with the system and stretch the legs of what's possible. By putting flags for just about anything you can come up with other than weather, surface, and distance locked. You can't do like sprints only or snowy only or hard only. Can't do them like that.
Oh yeah, because all the distances and everything are randomly generated, right?
Well, they used to have it, and then we created some. And then it was too powerful to give to streamers, basically, is what was kind of the thing. So it got taken away.
Okay. Is there anything else on Citadels in?
Um, Not really. I mean, just pay attention to what it is that you're entering on these.
Mm-hmm.
The streamers will usually explain them. So if you're going to be entering the sit and goes from streamers, it's pretty advisable to be in their stream watching because they usually will explain what the rules of their sit and go is. They're not going to be like, all right, guys, it's going to be a mystery. And all of a sudden, you have to figure out, how to enter your hounds and figure out everything. And typically they'll be like, all right, they'll build it in front of everybody and explain what the tournament is. That way, everybody kind of knows what they're going to be entering.
Mm-hmm.
So pay attention to when people are streaming, watch the streams, watch the races. That way you're not like trying to figure out last minute if you're entering the streamer ones. The sit and goes that are system generated typically all follow the same set of similar um, rule sets. You'll see the same
Yeah.
ones, like the Whistler Derby will be the same every time it pops up. So you'll know what the Whistler Derby is.
Open, no
They
boost,
all
dry
have,
house. Mm-hmm.
they have wet and soft tracks. So it's just wet and soft, snowy. So everything is going to be snowy, wet, or snowy soft.
And since this
So
is
when you have a hound that's
open,
good, yep, yep. The Whistler is an open. So hounds, you'll see hounds that are good at snowy soft and snowy wet running in the Whistler open.
Okay, okay. And one thing I usually check too is I mean it doesn't always matter, but you tend to see what everyone else is putting into these races. So if they're all putting very rares and rares, then I typically don't just put in a common unless you know that your common's really good. But even then,
Yeah.
you kind of tend to see what is winning and what's not winning and what's being put in. So I always check. I'll click the first name just in case if it doesn't mention anything about trained or untrained, just to make sure. I'll check to see. Okay, he's been trained, so then okay, I won't put an untrained dog in this race. But because sometimes it doesn't mention if it's trained, and I get confused. So I'm pretty sure a newbie will get confused also.
Yep, yep. So yeah, you definitely read the descriptions because they usually will tell you, and look at the flags underneath each one. So like on the Whistler Derby, they explain that it is open. So this is like any grade, retired or not, any hound can participate in this. No boosts. So no boosts. Even if your hound is boosted, you could race him. It just won't apply any boosts during the race. It's greyhounds, snow
Mm-hmm.
weather, wet hard or soft tracks, 300 froth, and 3 limit per kennel.
Mm-hmm.
So you could put 3 of them in, 300 per. Like it just outlines those are the stipulations. So you're going to know that you're going to be racing against dogs that are really good at those conditions,
Yeah.
like record setter level good at those conditions. So this is where it's almost just as difficult racing in paids and S&G hunting if you're going to get to the open grade sit and goes. Because I'd say anything that is open grade is both the easiest and hardest competition because you never know who you're going to go against. It could be all bot dogs and commons,
Mm-hmm.
or you could be racing the best of the best. You could be racing the record setters from every single distance and preference in the game's history if they haven't been burned, because there's no retirement from open grade racing.
Okay. Um, should we move on to tournaments then?
Yeah, we'll move on
Okay.
from to tournaments there, and then what we'll do is we'll cover kind of the grade system,
Okay.
and then we'll get into group 1 running strategies because that's going to be a little bit of a chunk there.
There we go with tournaments.
So tournaments, these are your big ticket items. So your tournaments are usually where you're going to spot your highest reward payout, non-flash. So flashes don't pop up under tournaments; they pop up under sit and goes, and usually have a good payout. But the non-flash, like scheduled dailies, your daily guarantees, your main events, and your major events that all pop up underneath the tournaments tab. And under the major events, you see the Muzzle League right now. The Group 1 Muzzle League just ended, or just resulted, the end of quarter major, where they take 3% of all app revenue and then you race for it, and ads had just won the 2,100 Matic earlier this month in that one, in the Group 1. Let's see, Mason got 1,100, Budgie got 800, Ads got another 600, and another 350. Yeah, he cleaned house in the G1s apparently. 950, yeah, almost over 300 Matic. Almost 300 Matic, or 3,000, sorry. 3,000
yeah.
Matic. Yeah. Over 3,000 Matic. So that was 900 there. 6, 7, yeah. Whew. A lot.
Yeah.
And then your other ones, your Queenstown, and that's the top 2 finishers win flights for
New Zealand.
To go over to the New Zealand trip, yeah.
So that's major events, okay.
That is down to Slump Dog, Sid, Odie, Adza, Cuts, Sid, Wiki, and XW. So the top 2.
Oh, I thought that would have already ran already.
I don't think they have the race drawn yet.
Oh, damn.
For the final.
Okay.
So I think they're going to draw the race finals and see what it's going to be first, and then that one will race. But I mean, those are where like your really, really big stuff pops up, is under the major events tab. Main events, this is where you see a lot of your monthly stuff. Pay attention to main events, because you got things like your group 3 Greyhounds, Group 3 Whippets, Group 2 Greys, Group 2 Whippets. Those are your XP-based entries, your big monthly tournaments. Usually a high Matic prize payout, and nothing but an experience-based entry. So it's pretty good to pay attention to these, because if you plan on, like racing. Let's see here, October 24th is the Group 2 cutoff for Whippets. All these new Whippets are about to get born and start out in Group 3, but if Whippet activity is popping, we could have literally, if we don't already have new Whippets qualified, which could have been another big play for early people to make a strategy of getting these airdropped Whippets, because they've got unnamed airdropped Whippets, unnamed breed, but named airdropped charcoal Whippets, that they can now start stacking class points to work towards Group 2, because the Group 2 Whippet tournament registration cutoff closes on the 24th. So they got 6 days. You can 100% get up there in 6 days.
By even for the Whippets that
just by racing.
Oh.
Yeah, the new charcoals, the freshly born charcoals. Just get out and race them. You plus 3 friends, and in Whippet side, Whippets are only a smaller number of entries. 6. You can enter 2 per, so you plus 2 buddies, you could fill a Whippet race instantly. So you could literally race 250 times in a day, 300 times in a day. You could stack class points left and right if you want to. You could get to 250 class points with plus 10 for getting a podium. Go up by 10 for getting a first, second, or third.
You said these are all paid by XP, right? think these are all
Yep.
paid by XP. Okay, so then,
Yeah, so you could just take those and just fill up some races, fill up some whippets, run them,
uh,
run them, run them, push, push, push. Get your class points, and you're going to have a whole bunch of charcoals ready to be racing in Group 2s.
oh, okay, so then
You know, we got Group 1
X,
trials. That's about qualifying right now.
so the
We'll get
XPs,
to the Group 1 trials.
you find the XP up here, Cano, up on the top right next to your
Yep.
Cano name. So that's how much you have. So if it requires 10 XP, then you're just minusing off the total balance you have up here. What was the other thing? Oh, when he talks about class, he's talking about this 0 that's next to, or here, for example, Yulia has 50 class points, but if she can get to 250, then she would fall under group 2, correct?
Correct. So
Okay.
as you race, you go up and down. G4 will remain G4 until they've accrued 1,000 Matic worth of earning or been trained. But as long as you leave them untrained, they'll just they'll run and do their thing and go up or down the class system based on their win-loss records. So each race they win, first, second, or third, they'll go up, and every time they don't, they go down. You know, and so it's you'll either maintain, drop, or go up in class. And so by strategically racing and building class points to move up your grade, you get qualifications for higher competition but higher reward payout racing. And this is where you would focus and lean into deciding, do I want to be a Group 3 runner? Do I want to be a Group 2 racer? Or do I want to be a Group 1 racer? The benefits of being a Group 3 racer is if you were to strategically maintain your class points to race within the Group 3 class structure, you would know that you're racing at the first level of competition only against folks that are either bad at racing, other folks that are strategically racing down like you are, or dogs dogs that are too good for Group 3 typically are being raced up into Group 2 and beyond, so they're not going to be racing or allowed to race in that level of performance anymore. So like say you get mediocre pulls, so you decide, okay, every once in a while I have my day, but for the most, this Leonard is a Group 3 performer, I'm going to make him a Group 3 dog, and then you focus on running him as a Group 3. If he manages to win enough at Group 3 and squeaks up to Group 2, but he just can't hang and bang there, just let him grade back down to Group 3 naturally and just lean into racing him there. And there's nothing wrong with that. Knowing like where your dog is meant to race and racing them where they're going to win and be profitable, that's just smart running. But yeah, in the tournament tabs where you're going to see all of that stuff, everybody starts in maidens. When you're running in maidens, unless you're just trying to keep your G4s in maidens, don't put your G4 maidens in open maiden competition because they will often be running against trained hounds. And when they're running against trained hounds, they're not going to perform as just an untrained G4 against a fully trained, VR. So keep them kind of in their lane if you're trying to get out of maidens. But if you're trying to stay in maidens and just using racing unrabbited, or racing with rabbits in certain distances to see what the time differences are, and you just want to stay in maidens that long because you don't want to race against so much stuff trained. You could go absolutely take your G4 maiden and race it in nothing but regular maidens and just use times, knowing that if one or two trained hounds get into that race, they're going to be the ones that end up winning it. But
Are
you're
you
not there to
on?
win. You're just there to
Are you
check
on?
times.
Are you on daily, or are you talking about races?
No, I'm just talking about
Oh,
in racing. Yeah,
oh,
in
okay.
racing in general. Yeah, just on the races, not on dailies.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was
Okay.
just racing in general.
Oh, okay,
But
okay.
yeah, just if you want to get stuck on in the maidens and not go out of it, instead of going and racing in Group 4 maidens with your Group 4, plop them
Mm-hmm.
in a maiden. Know you're going to lose. Don't worry about placement and just utilize your time changes to
Yep.
affect your rabbit changes. And you could honestly stay in maiden as a G4 and race that hound 1,000 times, learn it perfectly without any risk of ever winning it. And when you're finally ready to win a race with your 15 to 15 trained G4, you could make it in a maiden. Go plop him in a G4 maiden knowing he's fully configured. Um, it's definitely a strategy. If people wanted to go to, like, how do I make or increase odds of success or things like that, those are things you could do. Train the shit out of your maiden, learn it very, very well before you enter it in a maiden, like a daily G4 maiden event. Now, this one wouldn't be it right here. This is your trained open. So this is where you'd have to put in this. So this week's maiden would be just a trained open, but they do have, commons. They have untrained. They have G4. So knowing how specific each of these dailies are, these are a lot like the sit and goes, but these are going to be ones that have a guaranteed minimum prize pool that is juiced by the game. So Muzzle Run added in 70,000 froth guaranteed. So after that 70,000 froth, a portion of that's covered by race entries and all of that good stuff, but that's guaranteed minimum. So if there's only 10 people enter that, it's going to have a guaranteed minimum of 70,000 froth. Their race entries don't cover that. But once there's a certain number of people entered the race, all race entries add to the guaranteed amount on top. So it'll be a juiced amount over the top. But yeah, these are good to look at. If you get one that's not super filled, but you fit the criteria on, hop into a daily. 70,000 froth, nothing to scoff at. I think that equates to what, like maybe 85 Matic, something like that. No,
No.
70,000 froth is way more than that.
Yeah. Here, I got deck screener here. What was it? 70,000.
70,000.
Yeah, that's way more. What is that, like 200 something? Let's see. Oh shit.
More than that.
Oh yeah, 372.
372. Yeah.
Wow.
So that's the prize pool. That's the guaranteed prize pool for the untrained commons.
But first
30,000 going to first. 30,000 to first. That's a good chunk.
Yeah, 159 right there that you could get. And then the entry is what, 400. So your 400 of $2.13 can earn you a lot more.
Yep.
It's just you gotta hope, but it could happen, and you could get lucky.
Yeah. There's a little bit of hope and a lot of bit of strategy. Knowing how to enter. Don't be sloppy. Don't be a donor. So many people here are just froth donors in these races.
So if it's
when I say that, I mean they had zero chance of winning, but they entered anyway.
So what type of tournaments would? Okay, so I know you said about focusing on maiden. If that would be a strategy for someone that doesn't want to spend too much, but have a better chance, right? What type of tournament or dailies would they be able to? Would you recommend on entering? I mean, if they wanted to get their feet wet on some of them.
So the ones that I would recommend learning how to really race in is your send-its. You get a G4 send-it and you get a full send-it every single week. The benefit of a send-it is they're going to give you two things at the same time. One, a chance at a nice prize, but two, they're going to give you data. And if I'm paying for a race, I'm paying for more than just the prize pool. I'm paying for some race data. This is accelerated races. I get to see some results with back to back races instead of waiting for them to fill. Cool. The benefit of Ascended is they will cover a race at every distance in the game. There are 12 races and a final. So your hound will race either 12 or 13 times. The benefit of this, so the downfall is in the non-G4 version, it is open to boosting, so you do need to have boosts applied for more than one set of boosts. One boost cycle covers 10 races, and there's 12 plus a final in Ascended. So the reason I like Send-Its is I get data on pretty much every distance, and I don't have to wait for it. I could try to be learning my stayers for a whole day straight and never see a 600 pop up. I could get nothing but 650s and 700-meter stays all day long, and 650 never showed its head once. Whereas with Ascend It, I plop my dog in there, I know it's going to hit a 600 at least one time. It's a set it and forget it. You get to watch a bunch of races. I like watching the dogs race. I like seeing how they race against competition, and I like seeing how they race across a spread of different conditions. And that's what you're going to get in Ascend It. And so they're long races, but for the cost to the payout returned, I would suggest Send It's being just about anybody's kind of like feet wet entry point into the paid racing circuit, just so you can get a feel for watching your dog run and the adrenaline of when your dog is a contender. So when you're in like the top 32 on the leaderboards of the Send It and you're watching every day as you're trying to maintain the adrenaline you feel watching your dog move up and down in those top 32 slots, trying to land a top 8 for the making the finals. It's a really, really fun, intense, like gambler's high that if you're going to enjoy the race highs of racing over here, it's one you're not going to want to miss out on. The Sendits kind of give you the closest thing to those big, big tournaments and chasing the leaderboards up and down. And you're going to get to watch your dog run a whole lot. So yeah, I prefer personally diving in with Sendits. Most new players aren't going to be patient enough to want to do the maiden hunt, which is where you set on dogs for long periods of time, knowing that they're going to be good for particular maidens. If you're new to the game and you pull a good dog, you're not going to be like, okay, well, I just got this new toy. And the community recommends that I wait to play with my new toy for 6 months when this perfect race comes around. So I guess I'll just sit it up on the shelf. No, they want to get out there and watch their new toy run. We are degenerate gamblers in this space. When you pull in a Mira, you want that Amira to be trained, ready to race, and in her first major tournament, winning you a fortune with your name and lights as you have landed on the podium. Like that's what we all want to see when we pull that monster dog. That's what we envision in our brain. Is this our kennel champ? So people want to get out there and play with their toys. So hunting maidens, that's a late game, real slow strategy of, hey, I know they pump out maidens for these particular types of hounds, and this happens to be, like they just did an untrained commons, right? But it wasn't G4 commons, it was just commons. They just did a common maiden tournament. That's one where the people who won, surprise, surprise, had spotties that they had sat on from either December or the one-day spotty ripping event. Yeah. And the only spotties, or the only common that has 97 speed, 97 endurance untrained is a spotty. So we had Haley's that had been sat on for months, untrained, unraced, get entered into the common maiden tournament untrained. But hey, when you got 97 speed, 97 endurance, and nobody else has been able to pull a spotty for the last 5 months, you got plenty good odds of being in the top. So surprise, surprise, you had Haley's come out of the woodworks for the untrained common racing and take the pot.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's another one I need to watch for then. Let me copy that actually, so I can, because there's some of my personal ones that I've been focusing on, and honestly, I'm not a huge fan of the mini Sendits because so many people already, they already have their dog configured, so they're using spotties. So I don't really care for mini Senate as much because all you see are spotties in there, configured.
Well, that's
spotties.
all you're going to see in Send It Sundays too.
Yeah. So that's why I've drifted away from all of those, and the only ones that I'll do
most spotties you see these days are going to be pretty configured. Yeah. Because you got to consider they've been owned and ran and learned for 6 months plus. some over a year, almost a
Mm-hmm.
year now. You know, we're coming up on the 1 year, not over a year, but almost a 1 year mark. We're what, 2 months out
Mm-hmm.
from the 1 year of ownership on these bodies. So most of them are going to be almost fully configured, if not 15 out of 15 by now.
Yeah. So the ones that I focus on are with the group 4 maidens, untrained, and maybe maiden mayhem trained, right? Maybe.
Yeah.
But the
Yeah. Just pay attention to what's kind of popping up, honestly,
yeah.
on these is read what the limits are. I made the mistake
Mm-hmm.
early of like not realizing that I put a dog that's only good at running on wet into a muddy race, thinking
Mm-hmm.
it was like an open grade group 2 or something,
Yeah.
when it was really group 2 mud, and I just did terrible and destroyed my dog's form,
Mm-hmm.
completely tanked my dog because I just didn't realize there was that extra flag on that race. But yeah, just pay attention to what the rules are,
Mm-hmm.
because they all have, you know, specific rules that will apply and limit the hounds that can race.
Yeah.
So just be mindful of what you're entering. Um, High roller, top three payout. Gosh, wouldn't it hurt to win fourth in that one?
Yeah. Oh, and I started getting into the OG mini send it a bit. And then the next one I think is mainly whip it. So maybe the whip it maiden trained. Mainly
Yep.
the common whip it untrained is the one that I've been stacking up, and we're ready to dump some of them. But those are the main four that I've been focusing on, mainly on the whippet side because of the lower entry and untrained, and so um, it's just easier. Well, yeah, in my opinion, I think it's easier for me. But as a new player, because I'm still new-ish, right? Yeah, still new.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, I haven't been focusing on any of these specific, like say wet track, common roulette. I never had uh, good luck on that one.
The range
Um,
rumbles are ones to take a look at. Those ones, the range rumbles,
mm-hmm.
can be good for new players
Okay.
because they do just limit the overall train to where you're not going to be running against quite as strong, because like a 390 cap,
Mm-hmm.
that's not as dominant as like a 396 is. If you
Mm-hmm.
were to put a 385 hound against a 396, it's going to be quite the spread of difference versus, you know, a 390, which you can hit a 390 training on a large portion of rare plus grays. So a lot of people can land in that 386 even to 390. So 385 to 390 is a nice range rumble spread to where if you happen to get, you know, a Leonard starts as a 376 base. As long as you add 9 points to a Leonard, 9 out of 15 on the training, he's going to be able to compete in this range rumble. Now, will a 385 plus 9 Leonard be a relevant and competitive hound for this range rumble? No. But if you get a Leonard, you 3-2-3 that endo, you get the 3 into speed, you get the 1-3 left over to put somewhere, and you're a plus 14 Leonard with him being a 376 base. Now you got your hands on a 390 Leonard. And with a 390 Leonard, we're talking a different story. A 390 Leonard could win the G1 Rickerton. A 390 Leonard could win the Rhythm of the Night and has
Mm-hmm.
won a previous Rhythm of the Night. A
But
Leonard.
that goes into range rumble. I mean, trained. And when I started,
Right.
I mean,
Yes.
I didn't even understand how to train, and so I needed
And
guidance on
there could
training. So,
also be untrained range rumbles too. You
oh
got to
really?
pay attention to where the range falls. We used to run
Um,
untrained range rumbles all the time. You could have like
oh,
a range rumble, a G4 range rumble. And that would just be based on their base stats, because you can't train a G4 or it's no longer a G4. G4 range rumbles are the best.
Mm-hmm.
because that's just a range. Because then you got people that are deciding, okay, well, this one fits into the range. Like this Sheba fits in with 97 speed, but she has terrible everything else. What if they're
Mm-hmm.
all, distance tracks?
Yeah.
Well, if they're all distance tracks, I've got this, 87 speed that's got the highest endurance and the highest consistency and the highest acceleration, or this 89 with the highest endurance but low consistency and acceleration. So you got to kind of strategically decide which ones fit within the range and what you want to do. Or if
Mm-hmm.
you want to have a mix and max, like I got one of each. I got an 89 speed, an 87 speed, and a 92 speed I'm going to put in to try to cover the full spread. And I'll
Yeah.
throw a Sheba in, you know, just as a random flyer.
Mm-hmm.
That you got different options on how you can approach those range rumbles and fit into them if they're the untrained G4 versions. But just pay attention to what you're entering, pay
Mm-hmm.
attention to constraints of what they are. Um, I personally like the tournament racing
Mm-hmm.
avenue of like racing for dailies, racing for monthlies, and racing for majors versus the individual paid racing or even sit and go racing. The tournaments to me are a little bit bigger prizes. That's kind of where I always did the best, was racing in the tournament circuit, was where I had my biggest payouts, was dailies and majors. Um, Sit and goes, I don't know. My
Yeah.
hounds just didn't seem to do that well in sit and goes. I had a couple of nice sit and go wins, but as a whole, um, yeah,
Yeah.
not a whole
And
lot in the sit and go world.
it looks to that these range rumbles I only see at 385 to 390. So when you were talking about
That's
that
in the
other one,
system generated. I was meaning more like you can
a sit and
create
go.
them for everything. I would
Oh.
create them sit and goes, yeah, as
Oh.
streamers sit and goes. Range rumbles, though they're fairly new
Mm-hmm.
to like the muzzle tournament page.
Yeah.
So Muzz has only recently started doing the range rumbles as like system official, and yeah, streamers can absolutely still make their own. There just aren't really anybody making them right now.
Okay. Anything else on tournaments?
Um, I really think that about covers it, other than you're going to have one differing daily every single day pop up that has
Mm-hmm.
guaranteed minimum entries, and they kind of change what they're going to be
Mm-hmm.
each day of the week just a little bit, but they keep on themes. So you see on Mondays, that's your maidens. So you get maiden Mondays every Monday, but they change what the maiden is. So if you
Oh.
look at what the day of the week the maiden falls on, it's always a Monday New Zealand time, which we're behind them, so it's more our Tuesdays. So like, or no, we race earlier, right? Our Sunday. So like our Sunday is the maiden because it's their Monday on Maiden Monday. And so like the Sunday weekly um, send it, the
Mm-hmm.
Sunday send it that normally would run on Sundays, that actually runs Saturday night for us in the States.
And it.
And the mini send it runs Friday night instead of Saturday because that's
But
supposed to be the Saturday send it.
but Monday. So just Mondays are maidens. Just a
Yeah.
random maiden.
So
What's so
our
Tuesday?
Sunday,
Mhm.
but the in the ecosystem,
Mhm.
Monday is maiden day.
What about
Yeah.
Tuesday? What's it like
Um,
specific?
let's see here. We can go through. Let me pull it up here.
Yeah.
Common maiden. So there's that. And then Tuesdays for us, But Wednesdays for them, I think, is when they do their whippets.
Okay.
But
Whippets
I
of
don't know.
what?
I don't know
Some
if there's
random kind.
specific days. I've never really tracked like what day does what. I just know there's themes on every day. So you'll
Oh,
see
okay.
like same style stuff pop up, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it'll change. Like some days of the week it'll be like a roulette of certain style, and then it'll be something different but close to the same. Like sometimes they'll do a wet track wonder,
Mm-hmm.
but then the next week it's not wet, it'll be muddy or
Oh.
sunny or snowy or whatever. Like they'll change the themes,
Mm-hmm.
so you can't really like predict exactly what every day of the week is.
Yeah.
They just fit within the same themes each day, and the only ones that I personally know of, like you can probably go and find a list of like what they post within those themes somewhere on
Yeah.
the Discord. I just don't know what it is off the top of my head.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, I'll have to look for that.
but yeah, they do kind of follow a structure though.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll kind of get used to knowing what the daily theme is of the day,
Okay.
and you kind of know what to hunt for. But yeah, wish I had better info on that one.
Yeah, no, no, I'll look for that
um,
within the server.
and then another tab to really take a look at is when you're going down these avenues of racing. If you go to the leaderboards tab, there are different leaderboards to hunt for. If you are going to be a paid racing leader, or if you're going to be a paid racing kind of person and you do like the individual paids, like, hey, I know which races my dog's like, I'm going to pay to put him in those specific races. Go to the paid racing leaders page and just take a look at some of the hounds, because you can look at the
Oh
hounds that have
wow.
made the most in paid racing, like Van Dam. Van Dam got ripped over here live from Sid Hickman for
Damn.
um, for Jean Baptiste, and that is the second highest um, earning hound in all of paid racing. So he's made good money going
Mm-hmm.
paid racing. A Trinity from an Andrew is the only one that's made more in a paid race.
Who's this one right here? Athena?
Um, Acina, yeah, that's the Trinity from Andrew,
Oh, okay.
and our dog owns that one. Yeah. But yeah, you can go back and look at the race history of these hounds. So if you're going to get into racing, into
Mm-hmm.
that, you can go and look, and that's just in the G1 side.
Oh yeah.
If you go and look, you can filter those two and look at G2, G3, and G4 hounds and how much each one's made. You got G4 hounds that have made 500 Matic already. And you could see like this
Wow.
leaderboard right here is really just a which G4 is the next to become G3.
Mm-hmm.
Because as soon as this hits 1,000, they move off of this board and onto G3.
Yep.
So that's
Ooh,
just a
there you go.
leaderboard. And you can go to this year, this month. You could go filter it by kennels and see who the top earning kennel is at each structure. So the top G4 of all time is Low Budge. Top
Oh
G4
wow.
paid racing kennel is Low Budge. The top G3 paid racing kennel is Westy. The top G2 is Sid, and the top G1 is Adza.
Oh wow. I
Adza's
wish
made 19,000 Matic in G1 paid racing.
I wish there was a that little toggle where you click and it shows where you're at, but it only shows top 50. So I guess it doesn't really matter then. Oh wait, no, it
Right.
doesn't. Where is this? Oh yeah, okay, top 50. Okay. Huh. Damn. And that's just for the paid racing legends or leaders, right?
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. That's paid racing.
And then here's the sit and goes. Oh, and the daily guaranteed leaders. Okay. Wow. So what's
Exactly. You can go through and you can kind of
wow.
look at the competition
Mm-hmm.
and see how people race. You can analyze and learn a lot just by going through these leaderboards, but you can also push, the paid racing leaders, they get payouts. The
What do you
highest
mean?
the
Really?
highest earners, yeah, there's payouts for being on the paid racing leaderboard.
Oh, what? Really? Wait. So what?
You go to Muzzle League,
Okay.
you go to paid racing.
Okay.
This right here for the Muzzle League paid racing, the paid racing tab, this shows where the pending prizes, that's in Matic,
Oh, I didn't know that.
okay? And this is where paid racing leaderboard lives. They have payouts of they accumulate throughout the quarter as revenue is earned by the application, and then the paid racing leaderboard is settled monthly. So the end of every month, wherever the highest paid dog, like paid racing winning dog, lands,
Mm-hmm.
that dog, not that kennel, that dog. So look,
Mm-hmm.
BR's got 3 right now on the list. He's getting 47 Matic from 2 and 473 Matic from 1,
Damn.
currently on the paid racing leaderboard list. That'll get paid out at the end of the month.
All of these, though, right? That's on this list.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, all
Yep.
the way up to what right here?
The top
Oh, 100.
16 dogs get a payout.
Oh, only top 16?
Top 16 paid racing dogs.
Oh, so what is
So
this one
you
then
gain
here?
points. You gain points from your races, right?
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, monthly points.
So
Okay,
every
so
time you race in a paid race, you gain points if you win. So first, second, third,
oh,
fourth, I think gain points, and everything else loses points
okay.
or like
And
doesn't
so
gain points.
so
Like you
to
get nothing.
so to get on this
You don't
leaderboard,
go
how?
negative points or anything, but you get on this by entering your dog into paid racing. And as your dog
Mm-hmm.
podiums basically in paid racing, you're going to go up in points and go up and up and up and up. So every time you win, you're going to skyrocket up the paid racing. So if you got a really, really strong hound at winning in paid racing in whatever his one condition is,
Mm-hmm.
you just make sure to race him like a monster. Just keep him going, going, and going, and
Wow.
keep him on this leaderboard for payouts.
And this is only oh wait, but this is group one, right?
This is just paid racing.
Oh,
The group
so
one is the other side. Your
uh
Muzzle League.
yeah, I'm on Muscle League. It says group one
Yeah,
here on
the
the
Muzzle
top.
League is a group one. Yeah,
Oh,
the
okay.
Muzzle League is group one.
Okay.
And that shows you who's currently in group one.
And these dogs are
Paid racing
just
is just the paid racing side
oh,
of
okay.
that group one.
Okay, okay.
So
But
it's different than like the group one is freeze and
mhm,
pays.
okay. But
The
even
paid
G4s,
is just
G3s
the
can
paid.
be here.
But there's paid racing leaderboards. Pretty sure we'll have to go back and look at the historic payouts. And I don't do paids. Like I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
do the paid racing. That's not my thing. I do the tournament racing. So I've never been on the leaderboards to get a payout.
Okay, okay. Huh. Interesting. Okay, yeah.
I
I
guess
didn't
we
know
could
how
just
you.
look and see.
Yeah. Where do you go for
It's
that?
pretty easy to just go to Muzzle League and then go to paid racing, and we can just pull them up and see. Amigo is G1.
Oh, okay. Pulling them up randomly.
Yeah, they're all G1. Yeah,
Okay.
this is the G1 paid racing.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, so it's just group one then, right? Because I don't think it would be. I don't see another tab
I
or
don't think
anything
they
for the
do
other
it
ones.
for other
Yeah.
paids. I don't think they have like the same paid leaderboard payouts, but we'd have to look in the white paper for that. And like I said, I don't hunt
Oh, yeah,
paids
yeah.
like that. Every once in a while, I'll enter one for data if it aligns with a hound, but I don't. I don't prioritize entering the paids, and the closest I ever got to that was when I was in G1,
Mm-hmm.
and that was just to try to fill out keeping in the in G1. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Okay.
um, yeah, G1 racing is really the next place to really lean into talking about, and this
Yeah.
is where the learning curve is steep, steep. Um, Now, actually, what is this? Paid racing. Maybe I just didn't scroll down enough. Or maybe this is showing like even non. Oh, this is showing zeros next to the names of previous like G1 people from the year, I believe.
Mm.
There's a bunch that have never raced that are on this leaderboard for some reason. I think it's probably just relegated G1s potentially.
But everything, so from G3 to go to G2, that's what, another 150 points or 200 points to get there?
So So here's the thing. So
Yeah.
there's the pathway to get into G1, and that's number one. And then you gotta get into group threes with your new hound, and you're gonna race up until your 250 class points to get into group two,
Mm-hmm.
or 200 class points to get into group two, whatever it is. But the 250 class points, it used to be 400, I believe. I don't know. I'm kind of I don't recall now what it was, but they did lower the class point requirement. But you
Mm-hmm.
have to have like 10 races in the month within that grade in order to qualify for the group one. I think it's like 250 class points and 10 races on the month
Mm-hmm.
in group two to qualify for the group one trials.
Okay.
And then the group one trials is its own race that you'll enter. It's fully boosted, where you will race against all the other best of the bests, and the top 52 get brought up to group one.
Is that a major event?
That is, yeah, that's under tournaments. And then main events,
Oh, main
and you
events.
go to the group one trials. It's 10 XP per entry. There's a
Oh, this one.
3,000 Matic prize, and the top 52 or however many it is, you got to have at least 250 class points, and have at least 10 races
Oh, this is for a
in
G2 hound
group
to
two.
try to get into G1.
Yes,
Oh, okay.
because once they do, that's when the group one, they have the free group one, like Rickerton, which is big money racing. They have the group one paid leaderboard, where if you're
Oh.
just paying to race your ass off on the paids when you're in G1,
Mm-hmm.
or you have your secret, circuit of buddies that just exchange their money hand in hand back and forth, but pump up the leaderboard.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as long as you have your shared merry band of friends to redistribute wealth amongst one another, you can afford to force your way to the top of the leaderboards every single month. And people do dirty things. You're going to pay attention in G1. So if you
Mm-hmm.
get there, just be mindful, maintain your integrity, report things you notice as violations, race legitimately, don't buy any BS tactics or do anything shady to try to get an edge, because they do punish those things. But just you'll catch on to a lot of things, and these are things I'm not going to discuss on a video because I don't
Yeah.
want people to go out and emulate doing them, as far as um, really like less moral or unsavory tactics utilized for gaining or maintaining certain edges.
Mm-hmm.
If people want to taint their souls with stains of degeneracy, let them go nuts. That's on them. but I'm not going to call those out, like the actual tactics being utilized, because it'll just lead to awareness of how to emulate said tactics and just become more of a problem.
Yeah.
So just be mindful of what you guys get into, and just know that you are going to have to work on a curve, unfortunately. Everybody that's going to be competing at the G1 level is going to be competing at a disadvantage if they want to compete fairly.
Mhm.
So stay on your toes and report flagrant violations and ensure to follow up on them, um, because there are people who have came and gone in the racing community that have made it very aware that they are completely fine with doing disingenuous things
Oh,
at the
damn.
sake of winning. You know, it's very much cutthroat, very win or die mentality for some people, and they've made it very clear in no less than saying the exact words that they would do anything to win. And you see that they often do tiptoe around the edges of what I would consider morally savory ground,
Mm-hmm.
and delve into areas that I personally would not go to for the sake of winning some crypto
Mm-hmm.
money. I just don't fly like that, and that's probably why I don't win that much, and that's okay. I'd rather be a morally sound loser than a a degenerate winner. So,
Mm-hmm.
and that's just who I am. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like just be mindful and race to have fun. Don't race to win. Don't race for the money. Just be smart with where you race, and you
Yeah.
will, by proxy, end up winning. And you know, eventually you're going to make something. You know, and just have fun. Enjoy watching your dogs race. That's what I consider these tickets when I pay to watch these.
Mm-hmm.
It's for me, it's not about a ticket to win.
Mm-hmm.
It's a ticket to get to watch my dog run in circles and cheer for
Yeah.
my hound, and that's where I get the thrills. You know, it's the same for other, you know, racing simulation games that I play, photo finish. You know, it's that feeling that it get to watch my, you know, animal or my holding compete.
Yeah.
That's what I enjoy. So I'm paying for that experience. That's where I get the thrill. And if I get that, even if I'm, you know, if I'm hunting the edge of making the final, then I got my money's worth. If I get to ride the adrenaline of being like right there on the cusp of making a final, then I got my money's worth because I'm paying for entertainment. And you know, when you look at some of the entry fees in Muzzle Run, that's where it's great for a lot of new people in crypto,
True.
because entry fees are significantly lower than a lot of other racing games. You're talking about pretty high end returns on a
Yeah.
$2-3 entry. You know, you look at games like Photo Finish, where in order to get, you know, $100 returns, you got to be putting in $30 entries, you know, on some of these races, or multiple to chase the free entry versions of those decent return races. But I mean, these are, you know, pretty good entry points for folks to just get low cost entertainment of getting to watch your NFT run. And if you
Mm-hmm.
win something out of it, great. But if you're entertained, even better. This is low cost entertainment.
Yeah. And some community members will give free dogs out too, just by having a new person come in. So I mean, it doesn't hurt to ask too if you're in the community. So I mean, when I first came in,
Absolutely.
I got several free dog, well, a few free dogs, and then like one of my main ones, Angela, was free, and she's already paid, or not even paid for herself because she was free, but I've already won a good amount with her. So yeah. Shoot. Is there anything else for this session?
Um,
Just want to make sure.
G1's probably needs probably its own session, like from
Okay.
start to bottom, Because in G1s, you're going to have different ways of trying to race, but you got to be very mindful of how to race in G1 because your first 100 races on the month are what count towards your score. After that, your score is locked. So if you got a decent amount, but everybody else now has the baseline goal of to trying to beat, you could see yourself passed and cut with nothing, like no way of getting more points to maintain. You've already burned through your 100 races. You're done. Your score is your score is your score, and you got to just watch from there. So there's a lot of different strategies in the G1 hunt. So that's one that probably needs to be its own half an hour conversation, at least 45 minutes. Yeah, there's a lot to the G1 strategy. When to race in the month, how long to hunt for the most ideal, racing full or half preference, spending in paids to mix in paids. Like there's so many different strategies for maintaining those cut lines and trying to stay relevant throughout the year. But yeah, that'll be a video on its own. But yeah, I'd say that just be smart with your money, and as long as you're enjoying yourself, just race. Learn where to race, learn what you enjoy. If you find that you enjoy Sendits more than anything else, then stick to Sendits and don't feel pressured to dive into Whippets or dive into, things that you don't enjoy. Don't feel pressured to dive into everything. Don't get too much FOMO and spread yourself too thin.
Yep.
Race where you want to race. Enjoy your time here, and rip some winners.
Oh, and just to add on this is a race selection, or race selection here. Whenever you're in the server and there's some people that will sometimes ask, and some will pressure to fill in a race, don't listen. Make sure that you have dogs to fill in. Don't just throw them in just to please others.
Yeah.
Fill in what you want.
Because there's folks that'll fill a race with an ideal dog that they know has a good chance to win, and then they'll just get you to dump it in there and take your money from you. So yeah, be mindful. Be very mindful of the races you enter. But yeah, just have fun, enjoy your experience, ask questions, be vocal, let folks know that you're new. There's a lot of folks that do like to help out new players and get you started. So yeah, ask a lot of questions and have fun racing some doggos.
Perfect. Is there anything else before we close this out?
No, I think that just about covers race selection.
All right, perfect. Okay. Well, then that concludes our session, and then thank you again, Fox, for your time. And we'll have to make another video on the G1 or more to come. All right.
Yeah, some G1 and beyond.
Yeah. All right. Have a good day, Fox.